Our AA and NHPI communities have been here for generations, helping to chart the course of this country. Today, our voice has never been louder, and our votes have never been more critical in deciding elections across the country at all levels of government. This success was the direct result of the tireless, decades-long work of countless community members and allies. We organized and educated. We volunteered and mobilized. We advocated and fought so that our voice would count. This political infrastructure, rebuilt from the ground up, has produced a record increase in national voter registration and turnout, as well as a surge in first-time and early voters. All of this momentum brings us to this pivotal moment, where the AA and NHPI vote is not just impactful, but decisive. We are the difference makers. And in many contests, we are the margin of victory. All because of people like you. And we are just getting started.
Distinguished guests, please welcome to the stage your MC for this afternoon, NBC 10 Philadelphia anchor, Frances Wang.
Hey! Wow. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Philadelphia, and good afternoon to the millions of you who are watching from home. Welcome to the Pennsylvania Convention Center for the 2024 Presidential Town Hall, hosted by the Asian and Pacific Islander American Vote, or as we call it, APIAVote. My name is Frances Wang. I'm a news anchor and reporter for NBC right here in Philadelphia, and I'm so honored to serve as your MC this afternoon. I'm the proud daughter of Chinese immigrants, and as that video said, we are just getting started. Whew, can you feel the excitement? 2024 is undoubtedly a consequential year for our country. There's an election going on between two US presidents, one incumbent and one former, who have vastly different visions for our country. Now, what happens next for all of us and for the world will depend on what happens in November. There are only 115 days until Election Day, and the two major party candidates could not be more different. From reproductive rights to the economy to US foreign policy, President Biden and former President Trump stand very far apart on some key issues, even to our community. This presidential town hall is the most important forum for Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders to voice their concerns to our leaders about the direction of our country. As APIAVote has always done, this year the organization has invited both campaigns to the town hall. And today, you will hear from the first woman and first South Asian American Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris. You will get to hear more about what's at stake in this election and how AAPIs are leading the way in making change in this country, from small communities to Congress. Now, there's a lot of excitement in store this afternoon, and we are so happy to have you here in Philadelphia and here with us to experience all of it today. Let's kick things off with our first speaker of the afternoon, the executive director of our host organization, Asian and Pacific Islander American Vote. She has been here from the very beginning, working so hard for all of us to be here. Let's give it up for Christine Chen.
Wow, what an amazing sight it is to see all of you. On behalf of Asian and Pacific Islander American Vote, I want to welcome you all to the 2024 Presidential Town Hall. For the past 17 years, APIAVote has been a leading and national movement, building political power by empowering Asian American, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islander communities to make your voices heard and vote. We are making our mark on that mission with tenacity, happiness, brilliance, food, and a relentless spirit and energy. API voter turnout increased by 27%. That is something for all of you to be proud of. I hope today's event will inspire you with how far our community has come and motivate you to take action and make an impact. Our theme for this year is building momentum. Our community, our vote, our future is really a tribute to the ground APIAVote has covered over decades and hopes for the future. Since 2008, APIAVote has hosted a presidential town hall that exemplifies the beauty and diversity of this growing electorate. Whether it is geography, age, gender, ethnicity, foreign-born, or American-born, we welcome you all in Philadelphia today. APIs are on the rise. We're gaining popularity, strength, institutional capacity, political sophistication, an expanded coalition, and exciting new leaders led by members of the U.S. Congress and first-time candidates across the country. And we cannot forget those who are running in local elections. They are transforming the political debate and landscape. We're expanding in the popular and in new media, using the internet to challenge political ideas, mobilizing activists, and helping to recruit and support candidates. Now, this growth was built not by chance, but through nurturing relationships to achieve the impact we desire for our communities. A vibrant movement illuminating even the darkest times. And our greatest resources are people, staff, fellows, allies, and collaborators, like all of you today, working daily on the front lines. Our success comes from these partnerships and a network that has triumphantly endured the test of our times. This is a very special day for us. We have hosted this town hall every presidential year since 2008, and former presidents Bill Clinton and then candidate Barack Obama has been among those who have spoken at our event in the past. This year, we followed our tradition of inviting both campaigns to the town hall, and as noted, we are pleased that Vice President Kamala Harris has accepted our invitation. This is a chance for AA and HPI community leaders to hear directly from the candidates and our community to engage directly with them. I urge you to take advantage of this opportunity in the most serious way. Please respectfully pay attention. We want to foster an inclusive environment for dialogue on all sides of the political spectrum. Any disruption will be counterproductive to the purpose of this event. So yes, the same two major party candidates are back on the ballot again, but a lot has happened in the last 4 years. Our event in 2020 was virtual. More than 1 million people watched from home with Democratic nominee Joe Biden and Republican surrogate Eddie Calvo joining us remotely. As the world struggled to recover from the global pandemic that hit our community especially hard. In addition to the loss of life, racist hate and discrimination against our brothers and sisters, sons and daughters bubbled across the nation, but we fought back. In 2020, we made history together. Approximately 60% of APIs turned out to vote, marking the highest number on record. And that's a testament to the hard work of you and our partners are doing every single day. The 2020 presidential election had the highest turnout of the 21st century, and we have to keep that momentum going. Our local partners have remained steadfast in activating and energizing our communities to ensure this momentum continues. We are organizing and motivating our voters across issues such as economy, access to health care, public safety, and education. The way we can make a difference and be seen is voting in November for president and for all the down-ballot races. So get ready today for November. Don't wait. If you are ready to register to vote, text AAPI to 788-683 right now. Now, if you and your kids or your friends need to register, then tell them, once again, text AAPI to 788-683. Now, every election is important, but for our communities, 2024 represents an opportunity to sustain a historical statement we made in 2020. Our work and your presence here today showcases the power we are building together. As a proud organizer from the Buckeye State of Ohio, I worked with so many of you for decades to get us here. And I believe from working with all of you that despite everything is happening in the world, a better future is not only possible, she is on her way. That is what we are here today. You are our future, and your vote is vital. Like I said, if you need to get registered, do that right now. If you need to learn more about the candidates, share this town hall video. Remember to make your plan to vote. And once again, later on today, you will also hear some of the stories and issues from local voices from the community across the battleground states. So I want to thank everyone, and especially our sponsors, for making this afternoon possible. The Wallace H. Coulter Foundation, PG&E, Comcast, AT&T, T-Mobile, the Asian American Foundation, and Lyft. I also like to recognize our co-producer for this production, the Center for Asian American Media. And now, to represent our host city, we want to welcome to the stage the first South Asian American Philadelphia City Council member, Dr. Nina Ahmad.
Woohoo! Good afternoon. Can we hear it back? Good afternoon. Welcome to the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection. Don't forget to say that last part because I will remind you. I am Dr. Nina Ahmed, a proud city council member at large. As Christine said, the first South Asian from Bangladesh, Bangladeshi American, Muslim woman to ever be elected to the Philadelphia City Council. Thank you. We here in Philadelphia are so excited that this important presidential town hall is being held here in the birthplace of democracy to underscore the importance of the presidential campaigns engaging with our communities, the Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islanders. Major thanks to Christine Chen, APIAVote, and all the other organizations who have created this dedicated space for candidates to address our community. This is what building power looks like. This is about holding our candidates and campaigns accountable to our communities, about having representation in their campaigns, their government once elected, and policies that reflect the diversity of our AA and HPI communities. Pay attention to who shows up. Pay attention to who shows up. What does representation look like? It looks like having the first ever Asian American and African American woman as our Vice President, Kamala Harris. The AA and HPI communities across the nation showed up at the polls in 2020 and made that margin of victory possible. So give yourself a round of applause for making sure we are at the table. Representation looks like having people at the highest level of government where impactful decisions are made. Case in point, Erika Moritsugu, Deputy Assistant to the President of APA and NHPI and Senior Liaison. She has the President's year. Our issues reach his years because she's there. Representation looks like the United States Trade Representative, Ambassador Catherine Tai. She's a member of the President's Cabinet, and she's the principal trade advisor for our U.S. trade policies. That is hugely important. Then comes Julie Su, who's the Acting Secretary of Labor, a nationally recognized expert in workers' rights and civil rights, who has dedicated her distinguished legal career to advancing justice on behalf of underrepresented communities. So let's flex our power. Once again, thank you to all of you, those who are from Philadelphia, those come to Philadelphia. I hope you're enjoying the food because we have a terrific cuisine all across our city. And for all these sites you can visit, we have one of the best historic sites in our city as our first city here in the nation. Not only are you ensuring the electoral engagement, but also helping us with our revenue stream. So thank you for that. Make sure you come back again and again. Now I am pleased to introduce a short video showing our local AA and HPI activists fighting to preserve a critical part of Philadelphia, Chinatown. Thank you. Thank you for your attention.
People think of Chinatown as a particular geographic area, like a set series of blocks, but the buildings and the street corners are not what make a community. Communities are made up of relationships, and those relationships are based on history and memories of place.
Pennsylvania's Asian American community has been in Pennsylvania for over 400 years. Philly's Chinatown, where we are right now, has been around for 150 years, but we've really, over the last 20 years or so, seen such a population boom.
There is a proposal for an arena that will sit 5 inches from the first business of Chinatown. We believe that if this arena were to be built, Chinatown would no longer exist.
It's really important to oppose the things that you don't want in your neighborhood, but it's also important to think about ways that you can protect and preserve and nourish your neighborhood. That's how we ended up founding Ginger Art Center. Today's a super exciting day. We're holding the grand opening of the Ginger Art Center, so not only are fellow community members, activists, residents of Chinatown going to be there, but also co-organizers from all across Philadelphia who have been super supportive of Chinatown's fight.
Some of you may know we have been building this space for the past couple months. We have been working on conceptualizing the space, building the space, and now running programming.
I'm really excited about the launch of Ginger Arts Center, and especially the fact that it's built by young people who are of our community and have a history of fighting already at their age for our community. With the Save Chinatown campaign, these young people saw the necessity of a space like that, and then on their own, they built that, they made it happen, and I'm just so proud that it's launching.
We just wanted to have a big celebration with all of our supporters, all of our families and friends, and the organizers who came before us to come celebrate with us and for us to honor you guys.
One thing that we're really trying to do with this center is just bring joy and celebrate the community and support that we do have among each other.
There are so many more Asian organizations, Asian leaders, Asian coalitions, and we're starting to win things. For the first time ever, politicians are forced to pay attention to our vote, and we have the opportunity to use that to win policy change, to win legislative change, to win justice for our people.
And that was so great to see so many of our local faces and change makers in our community in that video. All right, we are all very lucky because our next guest, I just had my personal fangirl moment backstage. She is a Hollywood superstar. She made her screen debut in the global blockbuster, The Karate Kid Part 2. Some of our younger audience members may also know her when she reprised her role in the Netflix series Cobra Kai. Has anyone seen that? Whew, it was so good. She also has played some iconic characters in the past 4 decades. She fights for authentic on-screen representation, and she fights for our community as an activist. During the last election, Congresswoman Judy Chu, who was also, fun fact, her former professor at UCLA, selected her to serve as a representative to the Electoral College, where she cast her vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. In 1996, she starred in the iconic first PSA targeting AAPI voters on television called Voice Your Vote. Who remembers that? Show of hands? All right, we got a few. Let's take a look at that video to give us a sense of nostalgia, and then please get on your feet after for Tamlin Tamita.
Listen up.
We're fathers and sons.
Mothers, daughters.
Brothers and sisters.
Married, single. Family, friends.
From the streets.
The cities.
From the islands.
The mainland.
Of every orientation. Gay and straight. Liberal.
Conservative.
Or alternative.
Citizens, young and old.
And new.
Substance and style.
We're women.
And men. We're East, West.
And all-American. Voice your vote.
1996, y'all! Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, welcome to the city of brotherly and sisterly love, Philadelphia! So as you notice, that video is nearly 30 years old, 1996. A lot of you here were not even born in that year, but I want to hear from you all. Who was born after 1996? Raise your hand and scream. 1996, you are called what we call young. Let me hear ya. Are you 1996 and born after 1996? Let me hear ya. One more time, louder, 1996. Post Gen X, Gen Z, and Team Alpha. Let me hear you, 1996. All right, a challenge is up. Those who were born before 1996. You are the ones who are young at heart. Let me hear it. Come on, one more time, all together. 2024. Are you going to vote? I said, are you going to vote? Who are we? Who are we in this room? Are we Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islanders? I said, are we Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islanders? And are we from the East? Are we from the West? Let me hear it from the South. Let me hear it from the North. It's all right, you guys are cold up there. But I'm going to call it the Midwest. This is the part of America that we're going to pay attention to because we know a majority of the battleground states that we're going to do battle and win. Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada. Let me hear it. What are we fighting for? We are fighting for your voice. This video was constructed in 1996. It was called Your Voice, Your Vote. We are here at a crucial, critical time in our lives as this United States of America. Are we united? Are we united? Is this our community? Do you have your voice? Let me hear it. My voice. Your voice. Our voice. Are we stronger together in November? Are we stronger together in November? Are you getting out the vote? Will you vote? Are you going to encourage everyone to vote? To speak out their voice with their vote? And what is it again? Voice your vote. What is it again? One more time. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to see it. We're going to see it. We're going to see it at November 5th. We're going to see droves of the golden people. When I hear about communities of color, we hear about the blacks, the browns, and I proudly say the goldens from yellow to brown is gold. Who are we? We are the golds. We are golden. We will shine like the sun, and we will carry this race forward. Now, who are we? Asian American, Native Hawaiian, APIs, Native Hawaiian, PI, Pacific Islanders. Are we going to vote? Stronger together in November? Your voice, my voice, our voice, together.
Hyped after that? What about you? And I was thinking, Asians, of course we be the golds, am I right? All right, now I was backstage when she was seeing what area everyone was from. And I gotta say, as a California native, I was a little disappointed in the West Coasters. So I'm gonna give you another chance because we're welcoming a trio of West Coasters. Please welcome to the stage the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus. We've got Chair Representative Judy Chu from California. Representative Ted Lieu, also from California. And Representative Jill Takuda from Hawaii.
Good afternoon, Philadelphia. I'm Congressmember Judy Chu, chair of the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus, or what we call CAPAC. I want to thank APIAVote and your amazing executive director, Christine Chen, for such a phenomenal and historic town hall event. It's an incredible feat to bring together thousands of Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders in person and tuning in from virtually across the country for this milestone event so that we can win in November. As chair of CAPAC, I'm so proud to follow in the footsteps of leaders like Norm Mineta, Robert Underwood, and Patsy Mink in leading this caucus, which has leveraged our AANHPI community's power on Capitol Hill for 30 years. Before our founding, we were invisible in the halls of Congress. As a result, there was no one to speak up for us when one of the most discriminatory acts in our nation's history was passed, the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, and when Japanese Americans were incarcerated during World War II. That is why it's so significant to see the immense growth of our power. Today, we have 22 AANHPI members of Congress and 77 CAPAC members, a historic high. Because we have a seat at the table, we've pushed for the rights and needs of our communities. When COVID-19 resulted in 11,500 anti-Asian hate crimes and incidents exacerbated by Trump calling COVID-19 the China virus and Kung Fu, we got the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act passed. When it was evident that so much of the American public did not know about the contributions of AANHPIs, we got the AANHPI Museum Study Bill passed. When Trump targeted Chinese researchers as being spies for China through his China Initiative, we pushed back and got the China Initiative ended. And we are still pushing back on Republican efforts to revive it. And now, they are introducing anti-Asian alien land laws that prevent Chinese nationals from owning lands and homes, but we've successfully fought to keep these provisions out of major legislation. Because we have a seat at the table, we push our federal government partners to ensure our communities are being seen, from requiring the Census Bureau to include AANHPI categories in their reports, to pushing every federal agency to disaggregate AANHPI data so that we can improve linguistically and culturally appropriate outreach to every one of our communities and that every one of them can be seen. But there's still so much more to be done. We must protect and strengthen diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives and affirmative action. We must address unique challenges faced by NHPI communities. We must fight to achieve language access, health equity, and economic justice. We must continue to support and protect our immigrant communities. As you've heard through this town hall, our voices and vote on these issues must not be ignored. AANHPIs are the fastest growing racial group in the US, and as a result, the fastest growing voting bloc. Not only have we claimed our seat at the table, but AA-NHPIs have truly gone from being marginalized to being the margin of victory. So I urge you all to remain engaged, cast your vote, and ensure your voices are heard at the ballot box this November. That means registering those in the community who are not registered to vote. It means getting those who are ready registered to the polls to cast their vote. And it means exercising the true power and potential that we have as AA-NHPIs to make a difference in this country in November and beyond. And now I am proud to introduce Congressmember Ted Lieu, who not only serves in KPAC's leadership, but we are so proud because he is Vice Chair of the House Democratic Caucus and the first Asian American ever elected to Democratic leadership, which means one day he can be Speaker of the House. Congressmember Ted Lieu.
Good afternoon. 2 days ago, Representatives Judy Chu, Joe Takuda, Mary Gay Scanlon, who represents some of you, and I were on the House floor voting on half a dozen really stupid bills. So let me just first say how happy I am to stand in front of so many normal, rational, kind people. I want to give a shout out to my good friend Christine Chen for her leadership at APIAVote. And to Judy Chu as KPAC chair. As Judy mentioned, under Judy's leadership, we have the highest number of AA-NHPI members of Congress in U.S. history, and we're going to expand. We just won an election in Virginia, AA-NHPI member, and our own Andy Kim will be the next U.S. Senator from New Jersey. So I'm going to speak a little bit about the AA-NHPI community, and there's both good news and bad news. I'm going to start with the bad news first. Discrimination and hate crimes continue to do bad things to our friends and family members in our community. During the pandemic, there was a shocking rise of 339% in hate crimes against the AA-NHPI community. Certainly, it was not helped when the former president gave a permission structure for people to attack the AA-NHPI community. Donald Trump used racist phrases like Kung Flu. Donald Trump blamed the pandemic on people that look like you and me. And Trump still continues to repeatedly mock the name of Elaine Chao, continuing to send a message somehow Asian Americans are other, that we're not of this country. And every time Donald Trump mocks Elaine Chao, he is not only disrespecting her, he is disrespecting you in the AA-NHPI community. Now, the good news is the Biden-Harris administration does not do that. In fact, they do the opposite. President Biden has signed 2 executive orders to combat hate crimes against the AA-NHPI community. President Biden signed the law authored by Grace Meng and Senator Hirono and KPAC members that combated hate crimes against the Asian American community. And right now, in the second highest office in the land, sits the first ever Asian American, African American Vice President of the United States, our beloved Kamala Harris. And some other good news. As Congressman Judy Chu mentioned, the AA-NHPI community is the fastest growing community in the United States. We've more than doubled in size since 2000. And according to a Pew Research report, the Asian American community will be the largest immigrant group by 2055. And in the last presidential election, there are more voters from the AA-NHPI community in swing states like Nevada, Georgia, Arizona, and Pennsylvania than there were in the margin of victory. And then earlier this year, a congressional seat flipped because of a surge of AA-NHPI voters. So here's the message. The AA-NHPI community has arrived. We will not be disrespected. And come this November, hear us roar. So it's now my great honor to introduce my good friend, Joe Takuda, who is an amazing member of Congress from Hawaii. She did so much to help Maui rebuild after that disaster, and she is on the CAPEC Executive Board. And please now welcome Congressmember Joe Takuda.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just kidding. I think it sounds great. Aloha, everyone. You know, I have to take a moment just to look at all of you. Because who would have ever thought that we would fill a room this size? And you know for a fact there are twice as much, 3 times as many of us back home or watching on television or on their Zoom screens right now that are in the streets making sure that our social power is heard. I mean, this is what we call in Hawaii an absolutely chicken skin moment. So you know what that means, right? It is. When I first, thought about running for office, I remember that not a lot of people look like me. I mean, yes, in Hawaii, we're a little bit different, but if you looked in the halls of Congress, if you looked at city halls or state legislators across this country, we did not see ourselves. You could not find many Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islanders sitting in seats of power, whether as elected or even appointed. Well, my friends, times have changed. We've arrived, and not only have we arrived, we are embracing our power to be at every seat, at every table, to make sure that this country understands AANHPI, we're not going anywhere. We are not going anywhere. That deserves a clap. And while you've heard today that our numbers are at the highest they've ever been in Congress, the bottom line is we're going to do better. We have to double those numbers. We have to triple those numbers. But it starts with all of you. I know we've got a bunch of you in this room, and it's hard to see from end to end. But if you are in elected office right now, if you are running for office or you're in an appointed position in government, please stand up. Don't be shy. Don't be Asian. Come on, stand up and be proud. Look around at these people. Every single day. That's right. Every day. They are holding us up. They are lifting us up. They are making sure that when people look to leadership, they see us. These are the individuals, my friends, that we need to support. We need to give our 200% commitment to, because the bottom line is in every corner of this country, they need more of this. They need more of us. And it's up to us to multiply those numbers. I can't tell you how important this moment is, not just for our people, but for our country. And as Ted mentioned it, we see it every day in the halls of Congress. The bottom line is we are descendants of people and civilizations centuries older than this country that we now call home. In our blood runs centuries, generations, years and years of cultural and historic triumph and trauma. We speak over 100 different languages and dialects. We represent over 79 different ethnicities. This is our superpower. This is our strength. And if there's ever been a time when this country has needed to draw on our collective experience, our values, our knowledge, the way we lead, with compassion and grace and dignity, it is now. So my friends, we are all here together, united in this room. Despite differences we have, despite where we might come from across the country, because we recognize one thing, that America is at a crossroads. America is at a crossroads, and right now it needs the leadership of us to help see its way forward. And I ask you this. You're going to be told today to go out and vote. You're going to be told today to research the candidates, to ask the hard questions, to volunteer, to step up in the coming election. And I just make this humble request of you first. For any candidate that you will put your back behind, your effort behind, your money behind, your vote behind, you make sure that you know that they see you, that they recognize the individuality and importance of who you are as Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islanders. You make sure they hear you, and that means they're listening to you, that you have a seat at their table, that they understand that it's not just about checking off a box and saying we covered the AA and HPI, that they truly hear you, understand your hopes, your dreams, your passions. But most importantly, please, my friends, you make sure they engage and they empower you. This is our time to be lifted up and not just seen and heard, but activated and called to action and put to work. So please, before you do anything for any candidate, including myself, you make sure that you're seen, you're heard, that you're empowered. I'm going to channel a little Tamlin Tomita right now, which is really hard to do because she's shorter than me, but she's like 10 times bigger on stage, as we all know. But I saw her do this. I want you to help me repeat a mantra that I say in my head every day when I'm in Congress, which is exactly that. See me, hear me, empower me. Not a day goes by in Congress, I don't step out into the floor in a caucus room or anything where I am not intent on making sure that they see me, they hear me, they empower me, because it's so important, not just for me, but for all of us. So let's say it together. See me. Hear me. Empower me. We can do better. One more time. See me. Hear me. Empower me. See me. Hear me. Empower me. This is our year, my friend. This is our time. I love all of you. Thank you. And I'll see you out there. We're going to win in November. Mahalo.
Please welcome to the stage KPAC Chair and Congresswoman Judy Chu.
Good afternoon once again. I'm Congressmember Judy Chu, Chair of the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus, and I'm honored to join you once again to introduce our keynote speaker today, someone we in the AA-NHPI community are incredibly proud of, Vice President Kamala Harris. Vice President Harris has made history and broken barriers as our nation's first Asian American, African American, and woman vice president. And it's so significant that she is joining us today to address our communities. From day one, she and President Biden condemned anti-Asian hate and invited KPAC leaders to meetings in the White House to discuss how to address it. That is why the Biden-Harris administration enacted the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act into law. And to address the invisibility of AA-NHPIs to many Americans, they signed into law a bill to start the process of creating a National Smithsonian Museum of AA-NHPI history and culture, the first step to our very own museum to teach the public that AA-NHPI history is American history. Now, last year, tragedy hit my hometown of Monterey Park, California, when a mass shooting occurred and a gunman killed 11 Americans, all Asian immigrants. Vice President Harris was on the ground within just a few days and personally consoled the victims' families with her deep compassion. Afterwards, one of the survivors of the shooting told me how shocked and numb he was after seeing his friends shot and killed. He held it all in, and it wasn't until he saw Vice President Harris that he was finally able to cry. I thanked her immensely and President Biden for their incredible empathy as well as staunch support of gun violence prevention in communities like mine. And the Biden-Harris administration really sees us. Under the previous administration, when the data on COVID-19 hospital deaths were first announced, the death rates for Blacks, whites, and Hispanics were represented, but we were shocked to see that we, the AANHPIs, were lumped in as others. Even in the midst of a global pandemic, we were otherized. But President Biden and Vice President Harris not only see us, they did something that we'd been advocating for nearly 30 years. This administration updated federal data standards on race and ethnicity, ensuring that every federal agency will disaggregate AANHPI data in their collection and reporting, making sure that every AANHPI ethnic group will be seen and heard. So I want to thank Vice President Harris for ensuring that our community is not invisible. She always sees us, she always shows up for us, and she recognizes our culture. In fact, for the first time ever in history, at her magnificent Vice President residence, she hosted events for Lunar New Year, then Diwali, and then the first ever AANHPI Heritage Month night market. We are so proud to have our very own member of CAPAC serving at the highest level of government. Kamala Harris has been a tremendous leader and inspirational as a barrier-breaking role model for a whole generation of younger AANHPIs. It's my great honor to introduce the first Asian American and woman elected Vice President of the United States. Welcome, Madam Vice President Kamala Harris. Can we hear for Judy Chu?
Good afternoon, everyone. Please have a seat. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Let me thank Representative Chu before she leaves the stage entirely. I want to thank you, Judy. She talked about when I was in her district, and many of us have worked with her over the years. She's an extraordinary leader and a powerful leader, a compassionate leader, and extraordinarily effective. And I've seen her in the halls of Congress when the cameras are on and when the cameras are off, and she is always fighting for the people. So, Judy, thank you for that beautiful introduction. Can we please applaud Judy Chu? Thank you. And greetings to all of the members of the United States Congress who are here and the members of CAPAC. As Judy said, I am a former and very proud former member of CAPAC, and I know the leaders who are a part of that incredible organization are a force for progress always in our country. And to all of the other leaders who are assembled here, I thank you. In 2020, it was the leaders here who helped to energize, organize, and mobilize. It is you who helped elect Joe Biden to become President of the United States and me to become Vice President of the United States. And in 2024, we are counting on your leadership once again. President Biden and I know this is a community that is a force and must always be recognized, and must always be recognized for the leadership that has provided for so much progress throughout the history of our country. And your work is essential to our victory in November. In fact, earlier this week, I was in Las Vegas to launch the AA-NHPI voters for Biden-Harris. And I will tell you, folks are fired up and ready to fight. Today, we are 115 days out from the election. And while many of us have been involved with these elections every 4 years, and nearly every time we say this is the one, well, this here is the one. This is the one. The most existential, consequential, and important election of our lifetime. And we always knew this election would be tough. And the past few days have been a reminder that running for President of the United States is never easy, nor should it be. But one thing we know about our President, Joe Biden, he is a fighter. And he is the first to say, when you get knocked down, you get right back up. So, we will continue to fight. We will continue to organize. And in November, we will win. We will win. Fundamentally, this election will come down to this. President Biden and I fight for the American people. Donald Trump does not. I have discussed a few examples of our fight with some of the leaders here today. It's an ongoing discussion we've been having. Let's start, for example, with the issue of affordable health care. When he was in the White House, Donald Trump tried more than 60 times to end the Affordable Care Act. More than 60 times. And give insurance companies then back the power to deny people with pre-existing conditions. Remember what that was like? Remember before our successful fight to pass the Affordable Care Act, what that meant for people with pre-existing conditions? Children with asthma? Women who survived breast cancer? Grandparents with diabetes? We cannot forget what that was like and the fact that he is trying to roll us backward. President Biden and I, on the other hand, have defended the Affordable Care Act and made it stronger because we believe health care should be a right and not just a privilege for those who can afford it. And today, more AA-NHPI Americans have health insurance than ever before. We also took on Big Pharma and lowered the cost of prescription drugs. And we capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month for our seniors to the benefit of more than 2 million AA-NHPI seniors. We are also finally making it so that medical debt, which is most often the result of a medical emergency, you don't plan for that medical debt can no longer be used against your credit score. This is going to have a direct impact on so many people, a credit score being the determining factor on whether you can get a small business loan, a car loan, or even a lease for an apartment. To create opportunity, President Biden and I have also addressed many long-standing inequities, including inequities like the lasting effect of so-called urban renewal projects, including right here in Philadelphia, the Vine Street Expressway. Decades ago, that expressway was built to cut right through Chinatown. It displaced families and devastated neighborhoods and it continues to cut off residents of Chinatown from jobs and opportunities in other communities. So to address this inequity, President Biden and I have invested nearly $160 million to build parks, bike paths, and walking paths over the Vine Street Expressway, which will make the neighborhood then more beautiful, more walkable, more bikeable, and most importantly, make it easier for the residents of that community to get to work, to get to school, to get to church. And we are doing the same kind of work that we are doing here in places from Detroit to Atlanta to Birmingham, dealing with long-standing inequities. Whereas the former president incites hate, we are working to combat hate. With the support of KPAC, as Judy mentioned, we passed the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act, making it easier for members of the AA and HPI community to report acts of hate. And while I will not repeat the vile language that Trump has used, I will say, someone who vilifies immigrants, who promotes xenophobia, who stokes hate, and who incites fear should never again have the chance to stand behind a microphone and never again have the chance to stand behind the seal of the President of the United States of America. There is so much at stake in this moment. And last week, we were again reminded of that fact. When And we will have those 4 more years. And we will have those 4 more years. And of course, we respect everyone's right to voice their concerns. I am speaking right now, however, and I'm going to continue with the topic at hand. So last week, we are fighting for a democracy and democratic values, which includes the right of everyone to speak. And I will then, we are going to have 4 more years also. So, listen, there is so much at stake in this moment, and last week we were again reminded of that fact. Let us please take note when the Supreme Court recently basically told this individual, who has been convicted of fraud, that going forward he will be immune for activity we know he is prepared to engage in if he gets back into the White House. Consider, Donald Trump openly vowed, if reelected, that he will be a dictator on day 1, that he will weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies, that he will round up peaceful protesters and throw them out of our country, and even, quote, terminate the United States Constitution. Well, not on our watch. President Biden and I will always fight to protect our Constitution. And Trump's advisors have created a 900-page blueprint of their agenda for a second term. They call it Project 2025. And it includes a plan to cut Social Security, to repeal our $35 cap on insulin, to eliminate the Department of Education and end programs like Head Start. And if Donald Trump wins a second term, he will continue his full-on assault on reproductive freedom. Remember, then President Donald Trump handpicked 3 members of the United States Supreme Court because he intended for them to undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as he intended, they did. Now, over 20 states have an abortion ban, a Trump abortion ban. Today in America, 1 in 3 women of reproductive age lives in a state with a Trump abortion ban. Many with no exception even for rape and incest. And Trump says he is, quote, proudly the person responsible for overturning Roe. We all know one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government should not be telling her what to do with her body. And make no mistake, if he gets the chance, he will sign a national abortion ban to outlaw abortion in every single state. But we are not going to let that happen. We have all together worked too hard and fought too long to see our daughters grow up in a world with fewer rights than our mothers. We trust women. And when Congress passes a law that restores the reproductive freedoms of Roe, our President, Joe Biden, will sign it. Yes. So ultimately, in this election, we each face a question. What kind of country do we want to live in? And here's the beauty of this moment. We have the power to answer that question, each one of us. And the question being, do we want to live in a country of freedom, compassion, and rule of law, or a country of chaos, fear, and hate? We each have the power to answer this question. If the Supreme Court says the laws do not apply to Donald Trump, if extremists in Congress continue to bow down to him, if people like Mike Pence are not around to stand up to him, our last line of defense is the ballot box. Your vote, your voice. So today I ask the leaders here, are you ready to make your voices heard? Do we believe in freedom? Do we believe in opportunity? Do we believe in the promise of America? And are we ready to fight for it? And when we fight, we win. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you all.
When I move my body just like this, I don't know why, but I feel like freedom. I hear a song that takes me back, and I let go with so much freedom. Freedom, I'm gonna get, 'cause it's my freedom. I love how you talk, you speak in my language, the way that you walk.
Asian Americans are the fastest growing racial group in the country. From 2002 to 2022, the Asian American population increased by 94%. The highest number ever of AAPIs turned out to vote during the 2020 election, which was more than a 10-point increase from 2016 and a 27-point increase from 2004. In 2020, 23% of AAPI voters were first-time voters, a key factor in battleground states such as Georgia, Texas, and Nevada, which saw record turnout of Asian Americans from the previous presidential election. Today, there are over 25 million Asian and NHPI people living in the United States. And a projected 15 million Asian Americans will be eligible to vote this November.
All right, we want to thank Vice President Harris for her time. And as we mentioned at the beginning of this program, APIAVote did also reach out to the Trump campaign to send someone to speak if they so chose to be here today. Our next guest, let's welcome her to the stage from Hawaii, Democratic Senator Mazie Hirono.
Aloha, everybody. And while I can't see you, I can tell by your roars that you are out there. So thank you so much for being here because, as I've said, you know, the battles we thought we had won don't stay won, so eternal vigilance, but half the battle is showing up, and you guys have shown up, and your voices are loud and clear. I'm so glad that I'm following my friend Kamala Harris. She did a great job. She is, wow. I got to know Kamala when she got elected to the Senate, and I served with her in the Senate for 4 years. We served on the Judiciary Committee. We worked together going through 3 Supreme Court nominations, including the tumultuous Kavanaugh hearings. The 3 of us who sat next to each other, that would be Kamala, me, and Cory Booker. Kamala deemed us to be the POCs. You know what that stands for? People of color. We were the only 3 POCs on the Judiciary Committee on the Democratic side, and the 3 of us sat there and we would often communicate without speaking. But I remember during the Kavanaugh hearings, there was one time where Kamala and I and Cory looked at each other, and basically we said, what the F, we're walking out. So we walked out, and we had an impromptu press conference to protest what was happening in that hearing, and that was the Kamala I knew. Let me just tell you one more story. You know, you heard from our Vice President about Project 2025 and all of the things that the MAGA Trump people will do. Think of every single good thing that the administration has done, the Biden-Harris administration has done for you, your families, and our kupuna and children, and think of how every single one of those are going to be done away with through Project 2025. You can put a lot of bad stuff into 900 pages. But one of the things that's going to happen in Project 2025 is suddenly Trump will use the Department of Justice for his purposes. Now, there was a time when we all thought that DOJ should be independent. So there we are talking with, we were questioning Bill Barr, who was our Attorney General, and at that time we thought it was a good thing to have an independent DOJ. Not anymore, not with the MAGA people. They want to politicize every single department. But I remember sitting there next to Cory and Kamala was asking Bill Barr, has anyone in the Trump administration, including the president, suggested, Mr. Attorney General, that you investigate anyone? Big, long pause. And so Kamala says, I'm waiting, yes or no? And Bill Barr says, I'm struggling with the word suggest. And so then Kamala says, how about hint? We know what was going on then. So that is the prosecutor and Kamala that I saw in that committee. And that is the Kamala that we're seeing more and more in this campaign. The most consequential campaign of our lives. Now, I have all these remarks, but hey, what the heck? We are all family. We are all friends. I feel like I can speak to each one of you as an immigrant, as a NHPI person. We are all together because we know what's at stake in this election. Representation matters. 15 million NHPIs can make the difference in this presidential election and in so many of the other consequential races that we are facing in this election. 15 million of you out there. I remember when I ran for the Senate, and I said, look at the Senate. They need a lot more diversity. And I said, I would bring quadruple diversity to the Senate because I'm a woman. We still need more women in the Senate. 2, I would be the first Asian American woman to be elected to the Senate if I got elected, and yes, I did. I'm only one of only 2 Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander senators. Only 2. There are 15 million of us out there. And 3rd, I said I'm an immigrant. I am the only immigrant serving in the United States Senate. And 4th, I am the only Buddhist ever to be elected to the United States Senate. And somebody in the audience yelled out because I was at a kind of like a rally when I announced to run for this seat, and somebody in the audience yelled out, "Yeah, but are you gay?" And I said, nobody's perfect. Representation matters. And as I said, I've seen up close and personal what Kamala brings to the table. I'm proud to call her my friend, my colleague. And you heard her and the other speakers talk about all the progress and the positive things that this team, the Biden-Harris team, has done for the people of our country. But, it's not like we have to stand here and rattle off the dozens of good things that we've done. In fact, when a reporter asked me, the latest polls show that President Biden is down, what are you guys going to do? And I said, the people of America need to know who's actually screwing them over, and it's not the Democrats. That's right. We have a team that cares. You heard from Judy Chu that Kamala went to California during that horrific time of those shootings. When we experienced the Maui fires, President Biden came to Hawaii very shortly thereafter, and he promised continuing support, and he promised that the way Lahaina would be rebuilt would be because we would listen to the people of Lahaina, not because the federal government is going to come and tell the people of Lahaina how Lahaina should be rebuilt. We have a team that cares. We have Democrats who care. You guys are out there because we care. And I hope by now you are getting that this is a time where there should be a sense of urgency. Do you feel a sense of urgency that if we don't do this for ourselves, we are totally... You know what I want to say. Yeah, and by the way, some of you probably know that I do swear. And I think I was the first senator to say on MSNBC that this is all bullshit. And I've said more. But if we don't get our butts off our seats and work together to make the change that we need and to elect the team that we need to elect everybody who cares about our country and our people at every level of government, then we are not doing what we need to be doing around here. So I know that we can count on you guys. Each of us has to do our part. That is why I'm here. I had to think about whether or not I was going to come today, but then I thought, okay, we each need to do our part. And when I came here with nothing, as an immigrant and not speaking any English at all, and having a brave, courageous mother who left my father, who I never got to know, but he was an abusive spouse, and she had the courage to bring all of her children to Hawaii to create a better life for ourselves. And I never forget the experience of growing up with a courageous mother and what she taught me, and that is that one person can make a difference, because she totally changed my life by bringing me to this country. Otherwise, I was brought up on a little rice farm in Japan, and that was where I would have been. So each of you can make a difference. We need to make that commitment now in the most consequential election of our time. And then the second thing is, as I mentioned, half the battle is showing up, not just showing up physically, but the staying the course, because the battles we thought we had won, be it voting rights or reproductive rights, a woman's right to choose, or any other right that we thought we had won, don't stay won. So it's eternal vigilance is required from each of us. And the other thing is that we need to have the courage. We need to have the courage of our beliefs, and to know that we each have a responsibility. So I just want to end by urging all of you, before you leave, to say to yourself, in following the quote from, I'm actually going to quote a Stoic philosopher named Epictetus, and he said, if you want some good, get it for yourself. So don't leave today without committing to be the good. We need to fight back every single day. Project 2025 is going to take away every single good thing that this country is offering each of us, and we can't let that happen. So, okay, are you guys going to do it? Okay, let's do it together. Okay, I'm not a yeller, I'm not a screamer, I just want to get the effing thing done. Okay, here we go. Bye.
Senator Hirono, thank you very much. We've talked a lot about representation on the stage, and we are surrounded in this room by it. Before we introduce our next speakers, I want to ask, how many of you consider yourself to be first generation? How many of you are here representing your community as a leader or just an involved participant? All right. Well, this next portion of our program, we're going to see a lot of these. I want to welcome Vice President and CEO of the Asian Community Development Council from Las Vegas, Yui Win. Oh, we see some Yui Win fans in the crowd. Yui, you got some fans up here. And Operations Director for Arizona, Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander for Equity, Lan Huang.
Good evening. I'm a community organizer from the battleground state of Arizona. I've been volunteering for community work with the AAPI community for over 20 years, but my journey didn't really start until 2020 when the pandemic started. I was the one at home just working on my laptop looking for vaccine appointments for my parents. My parents always taught me, to give back to the communities. So I was doing that, and I was helping my parents to get an appointment. And as you know, there are a lot of misinformation and disinformation on the COVID vaccine. So I ended up using a lot of Google search and translated for them and convinced them to go get vaccinated. I was the one driving them to the site to get vaccinated, waited with them, translated all the materials, and it was super hard because it dawned on me that there's a huge lack of resources available to our AAPI community, especially the elders. So as I sat there, it dawned on me that my parents have me to help them out. What about other families? What about other elders who don't have kids to rely on? So I'm technically challenged, but I put out a note on Facebook, social media, that I'm available to help. People start contacting me to get their appointment scheduled. And so a really impactful story that an 80-year-old lady contacted me through an ethnic magazine that I put out to offer my help. And so I was able to make an appointment for her, and I asked an Uber to come get her, and she said she's not going to get on an Uber. She doesn't want to get into a stranger car. So I ended up driving my Prius to her house. She lived by herself. So I came out and walked her in and took her to the appointment site, sat there with her, translated all the materials, and helped her understand why there's a need for us to get vaccinated. So we became friends. And she would call me up to just chat and see how it is. And then I follow up with her for her second shot, her third shot, and her fourth shot. So I can't imagine having nobody to help them with navigating the system that we have for healthcare access. So I would like to see more investment in language access and improvements to systems that will better serve our API communities. Thank you. So my journey working for AA and HPI for equity in Arizona started from there. And thanks to my executive director, we ended up partnering with the county to offer vaccine pop-up. And we did what we had to do with very little budget, but we were able to vaccinate over 3,000 AAPI members. So my ask is, how do you plan to address the health inequities, such as the lack of language access and elder care uniquely experienced by our AA and HPIs? Thank you.
Let's give it up for Lang. You know, it's really, really nerve-wracking standing up here because first of all, you can't see anything. And second of all, the lights in your face is extremely hot. But just want to make sure I give this moment that is so important for us as a community to come together. As the MC introduced, my name is Yui Wing, and I am so proud to represent one of the awesome, most fastest growing Asian American Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander community in the country from the great state of Nevada, which is also for Las Vegas, because we had so many, we just had Senator Hirono spoke. We're also known as the ninth island of Hawaii. We are one of the fastest, like I said, population of Asian American Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander in the country. And right now, even right back home in Nevada, we have 2 watch party going on. So shout out to folks in Las Vegas and folks that are watching from Reno, Nevada. Yes, we have a growing Asian community up there. And we, just like had, just like all of the previous speaker, talk about how Asian has been overlooked, because we are the perpetuator of those stereotypes. And I can tell you that as a son of immigrant, I came to this country when I was 11 years old and never thought I would be serving in the role that I am in right now, but I'm privileged to serve my community every day. I was supposed to be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. For those of you who know me in the audience, I am none of the above. So, but, you know, people look at me and say, hey, he must be one of those Asian that does not need help. He must be very well educated. He must be very, very knowledgeable about what's going on. And that's true for some of you in the audience, but that's not all of our community. We have small business owner, we have everyday workers, we have people that is trying hard to put food on the table, and we need to continue to advocate for not just certain part of our community, but all of our communities. And that's how we can come together and make our country move forward, because the Asian American Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander community is just as important as anybody else. the small business community has struggled in Las Vegas and in Reno, and they are working every day to put food on the table. And we come to roundtables, we come to town hall meetings, but we feel like our needs have not been heard. So as a voter, as a small business owner myself, as a community leader, I ask that each of you remind all of our community leaders to continue to ask about this aggregated data. For us as a community, we're not one checkbox. In fact, we're representing over 40 languages and culture alone just in Las Vegas when we talk about the Asian community. So all over the country, we have to do so much more to identify our needs and be able to ensure that we as a community are always be prioritized. So there is some effort going on, but there needs to be more, and we need to begin and continue to tell our story. And that's how we, in November, can make our community be visible. Thank you so much.
This is the Lao Buddhist temple, also known as Wat Lao Ratanaram. I've been coming to this temple for my whole life. Lao culture is very intertwined with Buddhism, and I think people just come here to feel a sense of community. This is a very communal space for all races, all genders, all ages to come in here and really feel a sense of community and try Lao food.
We want to be able to organize our youth at a very young age. One of my favorite programs is our Civic Engagement Youth Fellowship Program. It's a 3-month program where there's 22 youth in high school or college. They are trained on story self, organizing 101, advocacy, variety of issues like climate justice. Iris is our climate intern. She is the one that proposed, let's do a community garden at the Lao Temple.
Community gardens encourage sustainable living via sustainable consumption and food security. There's so many foods you can grow by yourself at your own home without having to go to the store, which reduces your carbon footprint. I've been volunteering for AZA and HPI for Equity since I was a freshman in high school. I started with civic engagement, and I worked with my sister to help recruit over 400 Asian Americans in the 2020 election. As someone who identifies as Lao American, this project means a lot to me because there are so many Lao cultural sustainable practices that can really be utilized in this recent climate movement.
When you have a garden like this, it brings you back to your culture. It helps heal people. The monk was talking about his wise words. He was saying, like, by having greenery, by having shrubs, by having trees, it helps people individually. It helps them feel like they can make a difference. It naturally draws people to volunteer. And I think that awakens people, that awakens their civic engagement, their desire to do community work.
It's really important that we increase civic engagement and climate justice because there are a lot of youth and elders who have a voice in the climate justice movement.
The thing that we are trying to build with our youth and our communities is that we could be represented in these spaces. You could be an elected official, be a leader in the space, and represent us. Voting is the key aspect of making sure that our voices are being heard.
When you come to Vegas, usually it's the Strip. The first thing you see are the lights and you go, wow, but you would never think there's life around the Strip. When I first came here, 8 years ago, we came to look and we're just like, oh my God, there's nothing here. It's just a desert.
I've been in Las Vegas for 30 years, and our community has always been invisible. And now, over 400,000 Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander in Nevada. Businesses are coming in, 32,000 Asian American, Native Hawaiian businesses in the state of Nevada. So our growth is huge right now.
We first met ACDC when they approached us to do a night market event.
How to get our community, especially in this town, where it's a 24-hour town, involved. And the Asian night market was designed for local business owners to showcase their business, showcase their food, and bring community together.
Being such a small community, the word got out really fast. That night market was extremely successful.
And when we have the Asian night market, that's when we have the stage and platform to talk about how important to fill out the census, how important to register to vote, and how so important to get to the poll. We started as a getting our community to vote to make sure our voices are heard, and then we add other service.
COVID definitely affected the food industry, and we felt it big time. I was about to give up. The hardest thing was keeping employees safe. We had to figure out how to get them tested, but at that time there wasn't any test available. ACDC came along and said, hey, we have all these free test kits for you. When employees got tested, we were able to reassure employees that everyone who's working is tested and they're fine.
Our community is not used to asking for help, but the pandemic taught us it's okay to ask. We're here for you, and we give you hope.
You know, being Asian, we're pretty quiet, especially when it comes to politics. Our parents teach us to stay out of it. You know, when we don't vote, people don't hear us. We're just the model citizens. We're quiet, stay quiet, and certain things like money and benefits just don't come to us.
We have to have a future where our community feels safe, that our community are being heard. When you have people who look like us in office, that also makes a difference. We don't have to be invisible anymore. We have the right to be visible, and we have the right to speak up.
Our next speakers, and I gotta give a little plug here. How many of you have eaten in Chinatown already, just down the street? If you're looking for a place with sushi, some Taiwanese food, a little bit of mixture, and alcohol, you're gonna have to go to this next man's restaurant. I wanna welcome you, welcome community organizer and Philadelphia local business owner, someone I've interviewed many times. He's the owner of Bubble Fish, which is in Chinatown, not far from here, Xu Lin. And the executive director of the Orange County Asian and Pacific Islander community. Let's welcome the executive director, Mary Ann Fu.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mary Ann Fu, and I'm from Orange County, California, We're home of the third largest Asian and Pacific Islander community in the nation, about 800,000 with 365,000 registered to vote. So we are really going to rock it in November, and we're very, very excited. So I'm here today because I represent a community of behavioral health providers. And many times, people don't know how much mental health is such a key issue for Asians and Pacific Islanders throughout the nation. And many times we get ignored, you know. And so I want to tell you a few stories about mental health needs in our community. We had a small business owner who was referred to us from a local hospital, and she had attempted suicide. She had lost her business and life savings because of the constant vandalism and shunning of her business, harassment and blame for her for the pandemic. She lost hope, and she was scared. She was scared of the attacks and felt like she was living through another war. So she just wanted to die. And that was a daily occurrence for us in Orange County. We had 3 times the number of calls for mental health during COVID. We also had several Asian American and Pacific Islander youth die by suicide. You know, they just didn't have access to mental health care. They were internalizing their depression, and just the struggles were just too much for them. And these are just a few examples during the pandemic, but it's not just during the pandemic. This is happening every day. But our mental health needs are hidden, and there are a number of reasons. One is the lack of disaggregated data. I was so happy to hear the Vice President talk about the federal government really pushing disaggregated data, not only to mandate it, but we have to enforce it. We have to enforce it at the federal level, the state level, and the local level. Because just because a policy is made, many times we don't see it enforced. When data is disaggregated, we'll see the true needs of our communities. In California, we just had a research study that disaggregated the California Healthy Kids Survey, 43,000 Asian American and Pacific Islander high school students. Once they disaggregated that data, they saw that Pacific Islanders, Japanese, Filipino, and Southeast Asian students had the highest rates of suicide ideation and depression. For depression, it was nearly 44%. For suicide ideation, nearly 24%. We need the data to be disaggregated. Secondly, we need more resources for a pipeline for mental health professionals. We do not have enough bilingual, bicultural mental health providers. We really need universities and schools. We need funding for a pipeline and scholarships for those students to be able to serve our communities. We also need to increase funding and resources from the federal government to community-based nonprofits to do mental health services because they provide culturally competent, linguistically competent services, and they need support. We need higher reimbursement rates for those providers as well. And finally, we also need to have research, and we don't have enough research on the community-based practices that we do for mental health in the community and how they are also evidence-based practices. And we also need support for precision medicine to really look at psychotropic drugs and the needs for, how drugs can help during mental health services as well. And so for mental health, for anyone running for office, for our presidential candidates, please, please, please prioritize mental health for Asians and Pacific Islanders. Please, please, please just look at you're not only saving money, but you're saving lives. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Su Lin. I grew up in Philadelphia's Chinatown, which is right next to the convention center here. I own a small restaurant in Chinatown, and I serve on a board of a local school. Before I was a business owner, I was a community organizer for 10 years and worked on issues like public education, race relations, and housing. Philadelphia's Chinatown is a historical neighborhood that has existed for 150 years. I grew up here. I own a business here. My kids go to school here. I have more than 10 family members who still live here. This is my neighborhood. The 76ers basketball team announced their plan to build their new arena right next to Chinatown. We have seen how Chinatowns in America are destroyed by big developments like this. My kids are biracial, but they can pass for Asian. I know they'll be asked the question, where are you from, their entire life. I want them to be able to point to Chinatown that way and say, I'm from Chinatown and our people have been here for generations. I also want to talk about the impact of COVID on small businesses like mine. My restaurant really struggled during COVID. Our dining room was shut down. We rely on delivery services to survive. They take anywhere from 25% to 35% for each order they deliver. It forced us to work more for less. We have seen more attacks against Asians in the city since COVID. Some of our staff were scared to take public transportation to get to work. We offered to compensate some of their Uber or Lyft fares, which increased our expenses. We work hard to build our neighborhood and business. We'd like to know what can this administration do to protect our neighborhoods and small businesses like mine. Thank you.
In 2020, when we were faced with COVID, it was around the same time that the census went out, and we were also in a presidential primaries. And as we were making our calls to get our community members to complete their census and encourage them to go out and vote, the responses we were getting were really heartbreaking. People were losing jobs. They barely had basic necessities. They barely had food at their table. It was really difficult for us as an organization to say, hey, register to vote, or hey, fill out your census. So APIAVote Michigan took an initiative. We started with a small fundraiser online to do a food drive. We partnered with local grocery stores, local supermarkets to get food that were culturally appropriate to our community members. However, there is still a food insecurity crisis, and it's important for us to take care of our community on their basic necessities before you can ask them to be involved civically. Tomorrow is a big holiday for the Muslim community here in Hamtramck. We try to do food drives for the community. At the same time, we register them to vote.
We need to register the new voters, the new youth who are graduating from high school. This is a great timing, and providing some resources for the community. We need to add more voters to the voter poll here in Hamtramck, and this is one event of many others that we will continue to do in our city.
We need more events like this in Hamtramck to help us as a senior citizen.
There are so many important items on the ballot this year, whether it's congressional seats, whether it's House of Reps, or City Council. It's really important that our community members are registered to vote so that they can have a say in who is going to be elected, who is going to be representing them.
One of the ways that my voice was heard the best was through voting, and when I turned 18 years old, it was an amazing experience to see how my vote can affect my life in the future. That's what we're doing here today. We're here to encourage as much voter registration as possible and giving back to the community and helping people out.
We know we have an important election coming up, and it's our job to make sure that our community members are registered to vote and are informed. We registered over 500 community members to vote at a food drive. It's really important that APIs are involved. Asian Americans are the fastest growing demographics in the state, and the way we vote today will impact our future tomorrow, so it's so important that we mobilize our community members to vote.
Thank you all for being here. We're going to say thank you a whole bunch of times because we're so happy everyone's here.
This event is all about celebrating the API LGBTQ plus community. This is something that Rising Voices put together for Pride Month so that we can all kind of be in a really inclusive and celebratory space.
Visibility matters. Finding peace and solace in our shared humanity.
With Pride, it is about visibility, and we want to provide a space where Asian American creatives who identify as LGBTQ+ can come and be in community with each other so they can talk, exchange ideas, and also maybe find collaboration.
The Asian American Pacific Islander population here in this region is growing, and we're finding each other, and that's a wonderful thing.
Within the Asian community in Michigan, there's huge diversity and intersectionality. The Pride event is a way for us to make sure that the narrative that is out there is something that is much more richly layered and more reflective of the reality of the Asian American population. We are artists and rebels and innovators and creatives, and that's something that needs to be celebrated.
One of the things I struggled with coming out was feeling kind of isolated and not knowing where I could go or who I could talk to about just realizing who I am. Being part of a marginalized community, there's a lot to kind of contend with. It's more bearable when you have other people who can really empathize with what you're going through and can support you, and you in turn can also support them and be there for them. I can find out where I truly belong, find a place that can accept all of me and not just part of me.
We want to make sure that the Asian American identity and community is not known solely through the lens of trauma. So we talk about anti-Asian hate, the rise of that, the incidents that happened during the pandemic, and that is a reality. And that is something that we do need to push back on and protect our communities from. But that doesn't define us.
Knowing how close the polls have been in Michigan, we think that when our community comes out to vote, we will make an impact.
They have power in their hands to make the world what they want it to be for their loved ones.
It is incredible to even hear and see the diversity within our community. Now let's welcome to the stage the Executive Director of the Hmong American Women's Association, Tammy Xiong, and Voter Data Specialist at North Carolina Asian Americans Together, Samuel Lin.
Hello, everyone. I am standing here really proud to be the executive director for one of the oldest Hmong women's organization in the country. And I wanted to take this time also to uplift all of the incredible women and LGBTQ folks, community organizers that are organizing our communities each and every single day. Y'all are the ones that are really doing true amazing work on the ground, and so wanting to just uplift that work. What I always say when I go back home to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, what I always have said is that when women go to the voting booths, we know that we don't go just thinking about ourselves, that we're also thinking about our community, right? And just a couple of weeks ago, I had the opportunity to run into a young woman that I hadn't seen in a while. And I asked how she was doing, right? And what she was up to. And she was excited because she had just graduated high school and was looking forward to go and study computer science over at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, right? But 6 years prior to that exchange, her and her siblings had actually experienced both her mother and her father get killed in front of them by a white man who had shouted racial slurs, right? And so I say this all to say that I think about the children that are impacted by violence each and every single day. I think about the families, right? As women, we know what we want for our communities, right? But it has been hard to do that in this time when our families are experiencing so much violence, when our communities are so under-resourced to have the things that we need. It is hard when we and our communities are experiencing things like domestic violence and sexual assault, when we're experiencing things like the deportation, right, of Southeast Asian families in this country, right? It is hard to think about a community, right, when all of these challenges are in the way. And so when we're going to the voting booths, I know that we are taking and championing our communities, but we also need to be uplifting and organizing for the legislation, right, and the policies that are going to give us the communities that we envision for ourselves. So thank you.
Hi. My name is Samuel Lin, and I was born and raised in North Carolina. And growing up as an Asian man, I know the struggles that marginalized students face today in our public school system. And that's why I'm so deeply concerned about the constant attacks on our education. As a freshman at the University of North Carolina in 2018, I remember feeling so excited by the DEI initiatives and the resources that were there. It was a space dedicated to making people who look like me feel welcomed. It made me feel like a better student because I felt safe to tell my story, like the things that I had to say really mattered, and that I was in that space for a reason. It really felt like we were learning from our differences, rather than letting them divide us. However, recently in North Carolina, we've witnessed constant attacks on education, ones that come at the expense of Asian Americans, but also BIPOC communities and LGBTQ+ students. Last year, our legislature passed its own Don't Say Gay bill in our classrooms, and this year, the UNC Board of Governors struck down DEI initiatives and redirected that funding to campus police. In a state where Asian American population has grown 8-fold in the past 3 decades, and with the North Carolina population continuing to become even more multiracial and multi-ethnic, diversity, equity, and inclusion are crucial in building a safe and welcoming community, not just for Asian Americans, but for all underrepresented groups. In a time where just the phrase DEI is being weaponized for racism, outlawing these programs only aims to drive a wedge between students when we should be focused on cultivating a collaborative and accepting culture in our schools. While we had made huge progress in the past decades, it is disheartening to see us take these steps back when it comes to these initiatives that endanger LGBTQ and BIPOC students. But at this moment, we know we have students, organizers, coalitions who are pushing back, not just in North Carolina, but all over the country. We have made great strides to protect and uplift our communities before, and we will do it again. But in order to do that, we need a leader who will stand for equity and inclusion. Thank you so much.
Our body, our choice. Our body, our choice. Our choice.
Today, we're organizing a women's strike and making it known that there are very important issues that include reproductive health care, LGBTQ rights, and protections from domestic violence and femicide. And women are not going to take it anymore. Women, through their voices, through their pockets and wallets, we are showing people that we're not going into work, we're not going to be supporting businesses that oppress women, and that we're going to hit not only the souls and minds, but pocketbooks as well today.
For the last 8 years, we have been building momentum here in North Carolina. We have gone from a community that was largely ignored when 80% of them were never contacted about an election to a community that can no longer be ignored.
North Carolina Asian Americans Together is unlocking the potential of API voters in North Carolina. We're focused on transforming our historically overlooked community into a force that's reshaping our political landscape. There are over 126,000 registered AAPI voters in North Carolina, and we want to make sure that all of them are prepared and informed to make decisions at the polls in this year's election.
Every vote, especially in the Asian American Pacific Islander community, is going to matter in every election in November.
One of the big successes that we've had in North Carolina is an example of a city council election that happened in Fayetteville in 2022, where voters elected the first Asian American city councilman by just 6 votes. Being a battleground state where elections are won on razor-thin margins, every vote counts. When AAPI voters come out, it will shift the tide of the elections for us.
Being able to be part of the change, watching folks who had never voted before come out and vote and then later think about running for office. It's been a very exciting journey to be a part of.
Today is not just a protest. It's a demand for justice, for equality, and the recognition of our worth.
This year, with crucial elections on the ballot from top to bottom, we're launching our biggest field program yet. Because without question, Asian Americans can be and will be the margin of victory in our critical battleground states.
This is what power looks like.
Freedom Inc. is a Black Southeast Asian organization that works with low to no income women, children, and LGBTQ folks in Wisconsin. We actually do our work through coupling direct services with community organizing to make sure that we can tackle the root causes of violence against our community and within our community. Black and Southeast Asian communities continue to be placed in the same neighborhood since the resettlement of Southeast Asians. And we all face the same issues, from healthcare to the criminalization of our people, to deportations of Southeast Asians, and also the attack that our queer community continues to face. We know if we want to win, we actually have to do this together. We have many wins at Freedom Inc. that we've had.
Earlier in the day, the governor signed a new bill which requires schools to include education on the contributions and the history of Hmong Americans and Asian Americans in Wisconsin.
And on top of that, it really led to our first Asian American legislator being elected to the Capitol.
Asian American education just goes beyond the textbooks, and I think that's why it was so important for us to get it in statute, that our stories matter.
We look to build community power. And it is important that we vote, but we also know that this is just one part of building power and one part of being visible, and that we actually have to go beyond that vote. I think that really leads to our future.
Distinguished guests, please welcome back to the stage, Jill Tokuda.
Aloha again, everyone. Oh, we can do a little better. I know it's been long. Aloha! Well, I know it's thinned out. I hope they're still out there, but I did want to first introduce, before I start, two amazing friends, legislators that represent the island and county of Maui, Representative Kao Yamashita and Senator Choi Hashimoto. If you are here, wave. If not, that's okay. Let's give them a hand. Let's give them a hand. I know they're here all week representing us, and just amazing leaders and good friends of mine. So grateful for them to be here. You know, in a few weeks, our community, our state, our nation, and quite frankly, so many of our global friends and partners, we're going to be gathering together to mark the one-year anniversary of the fires that destroyed our beloved Lahaina and claimed 102 lives. And while I will tell you that it still absolutely hurts to talk about this and to think about what happened, seeing so many people, so many groups, so many states, organizations, even countries step forward to help us, it gives us all hope. It truly does. And I want to say mahalo to so many of you here this week, in this room right now, because I know that you came to our aid. Even if it was a kind word, even if it was a note of sympathy, but so many raised money, they sent food, sent clothes, and you continue to give even today. I cannot tell you how much this means to our home and to our people. And one of the amazing organizations, our local groups, that I will tell you always steps forward, always leads with aloha, never says no when there is a need for help, that is the Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement. I am so grateful that they are here this weekend. I am so proud that they are represented as part of their teams, and their amazing leader, Kuhio Lewis, my good friend, and such an advocate and leader of Aloha, ambassador of Aloha for Hawaii. He's going to be here to talk to you in just a bit, but for now, please sit back and watch this video on the work CNHA did in response to the fires. And when he comes up, I ask you, please, give him a huge round of applause, because Kuhio and his team, they never stop giving when it comes to home, and they are constant advocates for Native Hawaiians in Hawaii and across the continent. So please enjoy this video, and please pay close attention to my good friend when he's up here. Mahalo, everyone.
We're here in support of Maui. You know, it's heartbreaking to see what has happened there to our ohana. It's moments like these where our aloha spirit shines, where we come together as a community to uplift one another.
We're trying to bring the normalcy back because it's been a hardship for everybody. It's heart-wrenching to see everybody in need, and it really puts a face with the disaster.
We're here at Maui Lani. We're first building 34 two-bedroom units for our Maui survivors. And what this provides more than anything, it's hope. It's hope for this community.
The best part about this is everybody coming together and helping us with whatever we need.
This is what community looks like.
All right, please welcome to the stage, you heard a little bit about him, the CEO of Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement, Kuhio Lewis, as well as the Executive Director of the United Territories of Pacific Islander Alliance, Washington, Taffy Maine Johnson.
Ladies and gentlemen, aloha from the majestic islands of Hawaii. I'm Kuhio Lewis with the Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement, and it's an honor to be on stage today. Our journey to be here has been about dedication and purpose. We've traveled 5,000 miles to be here to join hands alongside our fellow AAPIs. We're here to ensure that Native Hawaiians are not only present, but we're actively contributing this week and especially today. I want to recognize the fellow AAPI leaders, namely, Senator Hirono, who you heard from earlier. Just get it effing done. Congressman Takuda, Suvan, Christine Chen, thank you for ensuring that Native Hawaiians have always been part of the conversation. As a young Native Hawaiian, I'd faced many challenges, many that you would understand. Single parent, high school dropout, troubled youth. But rather than fall victim to this well-known statistic, I turned my passion into action, organizing marches and rallies across Hawaii to ensure that our voices were heard and that our communities were represented. That same fire still burns within me today, but now I wear a suit and I walk the halls of Washington, D.C. Our evolution as organizers has made us more strategic, more organized, and our voices have gotten louder. We continue to push for change and justice, making sure that our communities are heard and seen. Together, united and empowered as AA and HPIs, we will persist in amplifying our voices. Together, we'll change the trajectory for the generations yet to come. Together, we'll ensure that our communities are included in all discussions that impact us. And I want to thank you for standing with Native Hawaiians as we embark on our journey. And I want to thank you for your support for Maui. Thank you for your solidarity, and aloha.
Talofa lava. Talofa everyone. Hello. Again, my name is Taffy Maene Johnson. I serve as the Executive Director for the Utopia Washington State Chapter. I am a proud, unapologetically Fa'afafine and a trans woman from the islands of Samoa. Today I want to share my story with you, a story of struggle, resilience, and hope. It's a story that underscores why I am deeply committed to the challenges to healthcare access and why we need to come together to create meaningful challenge. Growing up in a traditional Samoan Pacific Islander family, I knew from a young age that I was different. The journey to embrace my true self was filled with fear and uncertainty. When I began my transition, I faced numerous obstacles in accessing gender-affirming care. Imagine needing medical care that is essential to your well-being, only to find that it is out of reach. I had to travel long distances, navigate healthcare system that was not equipped to handle my needs, and bear the emotional and financial burdens that came with it. This care is not a luxury, it is a lifeline. It is about the right to live authentically and with dignity. Access to healthcare is critical. We need services that are inclusive of LGBTQIA+ identities and sensitive to our Pacific Islander heritage. Gender-affirming care is essential for the well-being of our trans and gender-diverse community members. My story is not unique. It is the story of many queer and trans individuals who face similar struggles every day, and it is why I stand here before you today, committed to advocating for change. We need policies that ensure access to gender-affirming care for everyone who needs it. This includes access to hormone therapy, surgeries, and mental health support that respects and affirms our identities. No one should have to travel long distances or face financial hardship to receive the care they deserve. It's vital that healthcare providers receive cultural competency training to understand and address the unique challenges faced by our community ensuring that every individual receives compassionate and comprehensive care. And it's not just about medical procedures. It's about affirming our identities and our right to live openly and authentically. So my fellow citizens, regardless of your political affiliation, I ask that you join me in this fight. Our leaders and our elected officials across the country, I urge you to listen to our stories, understand our struggles, and take action. Let's lead with values of family, respect, and solidarity, ensuring that no one is left behind, and together we can create a future where everyone, regardless of their identity, can thrive. So let's continue to build a world where stories like mine are met with understanding, support, and unwavering commitment to justice. And as Audre Lorde once said, it is not our differences that divide us, it is our inability to recognize, accept, and celebrate those differences. Faftai lava.
Thank you, Kuhio and Taffy, for sharing your very personal stories. Our next guest, please welcome to the stage Georgia State Representative candidate and the founder and CEO of AAPI Outreach and Engagement, Michelle Kang.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Michelle Kang. I'm here to share my experience on how Stop Asian Hate movement has evolved in Georgia. Stop Asian Hate. Asian hate culminated in the tragic events of March 16, 2021, when the Atlanta shootings victimized 8 innocent people, 6 of whom were Asian women. On March 17, I received many phone calls from national media outlets asking what the response from the Atlanta Korean community would be, as we had lost 4 Korean women. It became clear that we could not stay quiet this time, and we had to speak up and demand an end to Asian hate crimes. That evening, first-generation Korean leaders established the Atlanta Korean American Committee Against Asian Hate. On March 18th, we held a national press conference to demand that federal, state, and local government, as well as law enforcement, protect Asian Americans and our businesses from hate crimes. On Saturday, March 20th, Asian community members organized a Stop Asian Hate rally at Liberty Plaza across from Georgia Capitol. I was moved to tears seeing thousands of people, religious leaders, Asian, Black, brown, white, young, old, men, women, and children gathered together to voice that Asian hate crime must stop. We were united spiritually and physically despite our racial, ethnic, and generational differences, and we stood together against hatred and bigotry. And we made a peaceful march to the CNN Center afterwards. The following Thursday, the Korean Committee Against Asian Hate held a Stop Asian Hate vigil, visiting federal and state elected officials and community members from all backgrounds to build solidarity and unity against hate crimes. That weekend, the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus, KPAC, came to Georgia for a roundtable discussion with Asian community leaders on stopping Asian hate. In Washington, D.C., the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act was introduced in March in both chambers. The Senate passed the bill almost unanimously, and it was overwhelmingly bipartisan. The bill was passed the House by 364 to 62. President Biden signed the bill into law on May 20th. Within a 2-month period, citizens, grassroots organizations, law enforcement, local governments, federal agencies, and Congress and President Biden work together swiftly to stop Asian hate crimes. We witnessed our country united under one voice to protect the underserved and marginalized Asian community. I'm running for State House in Georgia to unite us despite the difference in birth background, socioeconomic status, and language we speak at home. This year's election will be very consequential. I never felt heavy weight of my vote. Let's get out our friends and family, vote, register to vote, and let's get out the vote. God bless America. Thank you very much.
One of the main tenets of Advancing Justice Atlanta's work is being community-centered. The API community and other immigrant communities in Georgia are particularly impacted by food insecurity and food scarcity.
The grocery distribution has been going on for around 2 years. Not only are we giving out groceries, not only are we helping people out, but it's also a way to welcome them to the community.
Hola, ¿cómo está? Our setup is kind of like a market. We have about 8 to 10 stations. We have our fruits, our vegetables, our perishables, and we let about 5 families at a time just to freely walk around, to choose what they want. It's creating that relationship, harnessing that relationship with our community. A lot of our communities, they're eligible to vote, but they're not going out to vote.
We're here trying to be able to give as many resources out to the community as possible, or help people register to vote, or just get some more information about registering to vote.
Our families, they come from different countries. They don't really understand the process. But being able to bridge those gaps, it's very important.
Today's grocery distribution gave our volunteers the ability to connect with the communities that we're advocating alongside at the state capitol. It allowed us to hear from them directly.
Gracias.
To be able to build relationships with them so that we can call upon them in the future and we can stand alongside them. It's making sure that their voices are heard and that the policies that aren't reflective of them are addressed. So it's making the connection between, we don't have access to affordable housing or we don't have access to affordable food. Why not? And what can we do to make sure that that changes? And part of that is being civically engaged and voting for those representatives, whether it's at the municipal, local, or state level. The demographics of Georgia have changed dramatically over the last 24 years. From the year 2000 to the year 2024, we've seen an over 200% increase in the AAPI community. What we've also seen is an AAPI caucus that went from non-existent to one of the largest in the country.
A lot of our community is still not eligible to vote, and being that forefront, being that voice, and being able to be part of that change, it's very rewarding, it's very fulfilling for me.
When March 16th happened, the Georgia API Hub and many of the local leaders, we came together to listen. We heard that safety was a big issue, especially after 2016. Gun safety, the violence happening against our Asian American community has been something that keeps on coming up.
We have to ask ourselves if this is really the world we're going to accept.
Every year, in front of the county courthouse in Lawrenceville, I organize a press conference for National Gun Violence Awareness Day. And a large part of that has been building diverse coalitions of lawmakers to tackle this issue. And a large piece of that puzzle is bringing together different communities, the Black community and the Asian community, and understanding that gun violence doesn't discriminate.
Many API Americans feel that historically our community has been overlooked. What we saw in Georgia, particularly in the 2020 election, voter turnout increased by upwards of 80% here in Georgia, which was really significant because that really made up the margin of victory for the presidential election. After that moment, people realized two things. One, they realized that Asian people live in Georgia at all, which is already a huge victory for us, but also that the power of the Asian electorate is significant.
I am proud to be Asian.
I think of the rising number of voters. I think of the 17-and-a-half-year-olds itching to go and vote. And I also think of the new Americans and how they are so excited to go and vote. Many of them are voting for the first time in this November election.
I will be casting my first ballot in this general election.
The future is unwritten, and I can't understate how important our elections are going to be for our communities. Whenever you cast your ballot, it can make a difference.
All right, guys. Next up, we have our youth speakers, so I need everyone in this room to give all their energy. I'm going to give them a little announcement here. From Georgia, APIAVote Ambassador Isban Sabor. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. All right. From New York, APIAVote intern Abe Groner. And last but certainly not least, APIAVote Ambassador from California, Natalie Mark.
Hello, everyone. How's everyone feeling right now? Come on, you guys can do better. That's what I like to hear. I want to shout out my fellow ambassadors over there. Come on, make some noise. All right. My name is Isban Sabor, and I use he, him pronouns. I'm from the metro Atlanta area in Georgia, and I'm starting my second year at Georgia Tech. As a second-generation immigrant from Bangladesh, I've moved around a lot. Florida, Alabama, Utah, California, and now Georgia. Always being the new kid often left me feeling isolated. And that was compounded by the fact people often did not understand my identity. I can't tell you how many times I've been labeled as Indian or told I wasn't Asian. That's kind of crazy. That ignorance really made me make it hard to find my place in those areas. There weren't many people around me who looked like me, whether it was where I was in television, in the government, or anywhere really. That disconnect made me feel invisible. These experiences galvanized me and made me want to help South Asian kids embrace their identities and know that they don't have to fit into those narrow boxes. That's why I've long been mobilizing API voters with the Asian Student Alliance and other allies in Georgia. It is crucial for our communities to have leaders who understand our experiences and can advocate for accurate representation. We need voices that resonate with our struggles and provide hope for the future. This election year, we must recognize the power we hold as part of the API electorate. It is time to step up, advocate for our communities, and ensure our voices are heard in every space that matters. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Abe Groner. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm an APIAVote intern. I'm from Queens, New York, and I'm currently studying at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Growing up in Queens, I was fortunate to be part of such a diverse community of immigrants and people of color. That sense of belonging really shaped who I am. But when I got to college, I noticed a big difference. Many of my peers didn't fully understand the unique challenges we face. That made me realize how crucial it is to have representation, not just in our social groups, but in politics too. My mom is a naturalized citizen who came here seeking a better life. Her journey inspires me to advocate for immigration issues and for the rights of people of color. It's personal for me, and I know how vital it is for our voices to be heard. As young voters, we have real power. Voting isn't just about casting a ballot, it's about making sure our concerns, like immigration and racial equality, are heard. This November, let's show our communities strength. Let's make it clear that our voices matter and that we won't be overlooked. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Natalie Mark, and I use she, her pronouns, and I'm so excited to be here today. I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area, where I grew up in a vibrant Asian community as a fourth-generation Chinese American. After taking a gap year to volunteer in Ghana and Thailand, I'll be starting at the University of Michigan this fall. Growing up in one of the most diverse areas of the US helped me feel that my culture was normal and valued. However, the model minority myth imposed unrealistic expectations on us, causing my classmates and me to compete in unhealthy ways. This experience highlighted how this myth can divide us and perpetuate harmful stereotypes. Through this, I learned that our true strength lies in unity. When we come together, we can more effectively confront not only the model minority myth, but also other forms of racism and discrimination. Supporting one another allows each of us to embrace our unique identities instead of conforming to narrow societal expectations. This principle extends to civic engagement as well. When we unite, we are stronger, especially at the ballot box. Voting is one of the most powerful ways we can ensure our communities are heard and our needs are represented. Together, we can tackle pressing issues like systemic racism, environmental protection, and education. By advocating collectively for our communities, we can create meaningful change. And with that, we have to vote. So when I say APIA, you say vote. APIA! 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 Thank you, Philadelphia.
Today we are going to be phone banking. Phone banking is calling people on the phone, connect with them, trying to get people out to vote. No matter how you vote, we're just trying to get you to use your voice.
I'm a people person. I love people. I love talking to people. I feel like a lot more youth need to be taught that their voice matters within the political system.
OCAPIC has been working on civic engagement since our inception, since 1997. Even though we had the third largest Asian and Pacific Islander population in the nation, a lot of policymakers weren't listening to us. But once we started to vote and say, not only are we gonna vote, but we can vote you out, so you have to listen to what our needs are, then we saw people really listening. They saw the power of the Asian American and Pacific Islander vote. So we started a civic engagement program that's nonpartisan, and what we found was that it was the youth who are the best organizers, and it was the youth who would really talk to voters and engage with them and talk about the issues that were affecting them in the neighborhoods.
Community is the only thing that continues to allow everyone to strive and move forward, to be empathetic to the people you live around, to the people you're surrounded by. Canvassing is just going door to door, knocking and speaking to people within the community about the community, especially in regards to local campaigns.
A lot of the time, a lot of these people don't even know that there's an election going on, or they can't even vote. They're like, oh, but I'm not registered to vote. And I'm like, oh no, but you're on our list. We're connecting with these people and having these conversations, talking about why for us it's important that they vote. It's really important for us to be able to make that connection with them.
What's important about our programs is that it's not one time only. We see the youth, it's a year-long process of all this training that they go through, and that they then can talk to their peers about the importance of this.
They start to see this new perspective. From there, I've noticed that a lot of them want to pursue poli-sci in college. They want to start becoming civic engagement leaders.
The transformation of the county is through this youth organizing, is because many of the youth end up talking to their families about what they're doing in our program. And then their parents say, well, we want to help out too, because now you've convinced us how important this is. They'll talk to the people at their church or at their temple and really convince people about every single vote counts.
What we risk by not being an engaged electorate and an engaged API community really is that we risk losing our voices. We don't get the resources we need. We don't have in-language access. We have power if we just voted.
We really need to motivate voters now. Our community really needs to know how powerful their voice is. So we need to build that momentum.
Love the energy that we brought for our youth speakers, and hopefully we can bring it for our last speaker of the afternoon. We are not done yet, just one more. Last but not least, I want to introduce our next guest, the president and CEO of the engineering firm CSMI. She incredibly, also has a doctorate from the New England College of Optometry. She is passionate about mentoring girls, women, and minority business owners. So please welcome to the stage APIAVote Board Chair, Karen Eng.
All right, let's give Frances Wang a round of applause. She did a great job. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for leading us through that incredible town hall. Of course, thank you to Vice President Kamala Harris for participating today and speaking directly to the concerns of the AA and NHPI community. I also want to thank our sponsors, the Wallace H. Coulter Foundation, PG&E, Comcast, AT&T, TAF, T-Mobile, and Lyft. And can we give a round of applause to the APIAVote staff, who has done an incredible job. But most importantly, I want to thank all of you. You inspire us to do what we do every day. You coming out today, sharing your thoughts, sharing your ideas, and participating in democracy is what we are all about. And we are truly strong Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islanders. And we have been underestimated for too long. But we are all here to show the country and the world that our voices matter. We broke records in 2020 with our voter turnout. Let's do it again. Take what you heard today and turn it into action. No matter who you support, on November 5th, you have to go to the voting booth. And if you can't make it there, there are other ways. Take advantage of early voting or mail-in voting. We're available. Please get it done. Let's break a record for 2024. The consequences of this election are massive, with so many big policy decisions on the line. It's a huge choice, and it's your choice. If you're not registered to vote, do it right now by texting AAPI to 788-683. And use your power to make a choice that will be read about in history books for years to come. APIAVote.org is where you can subscribe and get updated about events and efforts in the future. Thank you all for coming today to the APIAVote 2024 Presidential Town Hall. I wish you safe travels and seamless travels. Thank you.